by most intelligent people. And in the 18th and 19th centuries, they substituted for it another myth, which is the myth of a purely mechanical universe, which is unintelligent, unfeeling, unseeing, the total opposite of the one they had before, and in which we can live without being judged, but nevertheless with a fundamental sense of futility. This latter myth has become extremely plausible today, and it is, as far as I can make out, the thing that most people really believe in. So you can always test what people believe in by what they do. I'm highly suspicious of most Christians, because I don't think they believe it at all. They'd be screaming in the streets if they did. They'd be terribly earnest. They'd have the most hair-raising television programs on fate and destiny of man if they took this thing seriously, but they don't. You see, what's happening in most of the churches is that the theological schools are very advanced, very liberal, but they feel they can't give their congregations yet what they think. And their clergy are apt, therefore, to be extremely frustrated people, always wondering in the back of their minds whether they ought to, in good conscience, maintain their jobs. But they should, so the plausible myth is not the Christian myth or the Jewish myth. The plausible myth is this mechanistic universe, which I call the Newtonian myth. And what I wanted to get across to you in the first session was that rather plausible and so-called realistic view of how things are is just as much a myth as anything else. It's a way, it's a formulating an attitude to life which has nothing really connected with the way things are at all. Then we went on in the second session to explore the influence of social institutions on our sense of identity. And I tried to show how social institutions involve the most fundamental ideas that we have, and that our ideas of time and space, of the nature of ourselves, and of the nature of the good life, and of the necessity for survival, are social institutions of exactly the same kind as the lines of latitude and longitude. Those are abstractions. They do not exist concretely, but they're extraordinarily useful ideas. Because it's only through, as it were, spreading networks and grids over the world in our imagination, by means of which we can measure things, that you and I can arrange to meet at the corner of Wilshire Boulevard and whatever the street is here, Vermont Avenue. It's interesting, in Buddhism, you find that all temples are guarded by very fierce-looking authoritative beings. So they're not like modern authorities. They don't have the same kind of glumness. They are much more ecstatic in their fierceness. And these are called the Dharma Rajas. That means the kings of the rule. They're the guardians of the 10 directions of the universe. Buddhism and Hinduism have 10 directions, that is to say 8 points of the compass, plus, above, and below. And these very fierce creatures stand at all temple entrances. And they are essentially the cosmic traffic cops. Because they have to be fierce. Because somebody has to lay down the law that we do recognize north, south, east, and west in a very firm way. And up has to be clearly distinguished from down, you see? So these people have a very important function. But at the same time, the Dharma Rajas have a slight twinkle in the eye for all their fierceness. They know, you see, that the 10 directions are conventional. They don't think that they are absolutely real. They are enlightened, all of them. They're all bodhisattvas in the aspect of a bodhisattva which is wrathful. I suppose I haven't looked closely enough, but if you look around these paintings, you will find here, for example, there's a wrathful bodhisattva, the sort of person who would be a guardian of the direction. Up here, there's this bodhisattva, and this one. They're beneficent. They appear in white color, and they have serene faces. But this one appears in black color and has a wrathful face. This is not a devil, or demon in the Western sense of the word at all. He's simply a manifestation of the fierce side of reality. Some people don't feel really alive unless they're sitting on a spike. That tells them they're there. I went to Mexico this summer to explore this, because in Mexico they enjoy bullfighting, and they enjoy a kind of Catholicism in which suffering is the big bit. We went to the shrine of Guadalupe and watched young girls walking about half a mile on their knees to get into the shrine for the special blessing. And then you find in the stores where they sell bondieuserie, that is to say, religious goods, all kinds of horrendous paintings of Christ with a crown of thorns on. And we made some very special meditations in the cathedral at Oaxaca, in the inner chapel where they keep the sacrament. And in there is a crucifix that's just about as bloody as it can get. And on either side, pictures of Jesus being flogged on one side and of the agony in the Garden of Gethsemane on the other. And I was trying to penetrate, what is this thing? Why do people go into this kind of spiritual masochism? And it seemed to me very much that there is that end of things which is a spike, and which is extreme agony, and which is terribly real. And that you know you're there when you're on that point. The other end, you see, is the womb, is the all-embracing softness and loveliness. That's there too. But if you go too far into that, you see, you don't know you're there. So, this was a digression, but it is in terms then of our various social institutions that we formulate directions, structures, maps, weights and measures in our Rorschach blot universe. Although, you see, let me re-emphasize this point that I made in both former lectures. This is not exactly our projection on the universe. Many of you probably read a book called The Pathetic Fallacy, which is a discussion of the way men have in past times attributed human feelings and emotions to nature. The wind is sorrowful, and the moon is serene, and the sun is joyous. And the whole theme of 19th century philosophy was that this is not true. The sun is not joyous. The wind does not sigh. It's you who sigh. But that's not quite true. Because a sighing human being is only possible in a universe where there is wind. A joyous human being is possible only in the place where there's a sun. All these things that are called the external world are part and parcel of your whole mental existence. And so we borrow from the sun. We say so-and-so has a sunny disposition. So-and-so is a lunatic, oddly influenced by the moon. All our language is full of references to our external environment, simply because our external environment is one with us. That's why in ancient times, and some people today, feel that you can draw the picture of a human being's soul by drawing a diagram of the arrangement of the universe as it was at the time when he was born. See, that's the art of astrology. Now, I personally think that modern astrology is pretty phony, because it is an archaic way of thinking about these problems in rather the same way that Paracelsus's idea of medicine was primitive as compared with modern medicine. Nobody has ever seriously thought out an up-to-date astrology. That is because the whole idea of astrology has been out of fashion among the more vigorous intellects for several hundred years. But the idea of it is in principle correct, that your soul is not inside your body is inside your soul. And what your soul is of course fundamentally the total universe. Now, our astrological maps don't include the total universe. They encode only phenomena in the solar system. And in the surrounding galaxies, some of the stars which appear to be overpassed by the sun in its annual course have been selected to be significant. But if you were a super astrologer, you should put in all the galaxies, or as many of them as you're aware of, and think about them. But you see, the idea of astrology, the truth that underlies it, is that the universe is your character. And the way it is disposed and focused at your birth moment, which is really a rather arbitrary point to choose. When did you start? Did you start when you were at the moment of parturition, the moment of conception, or when you were an evil gleam in your father's eye? It's arbitrary. And one should say, of course, that every here and now that you have and are is a focal point of all that there is. The moment of birth is simply selected as being significant because when the officials ask you who you are, they always ask you where and when were you born. For some reason or other, this establishes your age, this establishes your nationality, or something like that. And so that's a social institution. It's been agreed on as a peculiarly significant moment. But all moments, fundamentally, are just as significant as the moment of birth. You have a birthday every day, if you understand it aright. So, there is a tacit conspiracy in society to ignore the fact that the body is inside the mind or the soul, and that you're therefore playing the game of being a creature separate from everything else, all alone, locked up inside a bag of skin, and worrying like all get out whether you're going to make it, and being frustrated by the ultimate knowledge that you're not. That we all, because we are time binders, we know we're going to die, and that we'll eventually collapse, and that we'll get colder and colder and colder, and it will be most unpleasant, and then we'll fade out. But because we've got our minds turned inside out, you see, we've got our identity, our center of gravity in the wrong spot, then this worries us a great deal. But with that worry, we do all kinds of magic. If people didn't worry about dying, there would be no medicine. The whole craft of the physician and the surgeon and all the skills and the marvelous things that it involves is based on worry about death. There are children born occasionally who can't be boxed into the scheme. And very often the so-called Mongolian idiot, or a child who is schizophrenic for some reason from birth, can't be made to be afraid of death. And some of those children just are playing everything for all it's worth. They see a light on a reflecting surface like that, and they dig that light. They go, you know, and everybody says, now come to yourself, behave. They don't care. If they come to an end, that will be great too. They'll be fascinated with that experience. It doesn't matter what it is. They have no discrimination. They'll eat anything, put anything up their noses. They have absolutely no sense of what you should do and what you shouldn't do. The trouble is, you see, that if they had an understanding of the game that the rest of us are playing, they could get on very well, knowing their different game, and put the two together. And that's what I'm talking to you about. The trouble with them is that they don't understand our game. But that's the trouble with them from our point of view. Do you see that all decisions as to who is crazy are a question of majority vote as to what is reality? And that sometimes it's touch and go. You see, look, reality is what it is according to the kind of senses you have. Since in this room almost everybody's eyes are of the same structure, we are here and we agree. Everybody's ears and auditory nervous systems are of the same pattern, so we can all converse. Now, if a fly comes into our presence, he has an eye of a very different structure from ours. A fly, apparently, because of the multiplicity of lenses, sees the surrounding world from a considerably different number of points of view. They're not very different, but they're just subtly different. And that gives a fly certain advantages. But he doesn't see the world as, you know, if I see you there, sitting there, he sees you ever so many times. But he manages to unify that in some way. Now, the awkward matter for decision is when a human being has a different kind of consciousness from the average. To make the decision, is he advanced and seeing new things that nobody has seen before, or is he retarded and hasn't yet developed what the rest of us have? This is a very difficult decision to make. Genius is to madness close allied. But you've always got to one thing that our culture is a little bit defective about as compared, say, with the culture of the Arabs or the Hindus. We are not sufficiently respectful of crazy people. So, well, more or less what has happened is this. In the development of games, there was a time when human beings were wild. And that's what we call, in modern anthropological jargon, they lived in hunting cultures. They didn't live in any fixed place. And they roved and they hunted. They killed other creatures to live. Now, in a hunting culture, every male member of the culture knows all of the culture. They don't have a division of labor. Every man is a master of quite a number of skills, and naturally every woman knows all her side of the thing. But they're not fixed. The religion of a hunting culture is shamanism. Our shaman is a liberated man who gets his liberation by going into the forests alone. The Indian cultures of the United States, especially in the West, are to a very large extent cultures of this kind. And their religion is a form of shamanism, and shamanism is a universal religion, spreads over the whole world. Mircea Eliade has written a marvelous book on shamanism. But the essential thing of the shaman is that he becomes liberated from even this loose sort of a culture by going off by himself. And naturally, the highly socialized people have a terror of solitude, because in solitude, the awesome facts are slowly going to appear. First of all, the triviality of your role game. And then deeper and deeper in you get, until at last, one night, all alone and cold under the stars, you find out who you are. That's what every shaman does. And then he comes back into the world, in those kind of societies, as a magic man. But when human societies become agrarian and become settled, they divide labor, and they put a stockade around themselves at the crossing of two roads. All cities are fundamentally that, where two roads cross, and the cross is encircled with a pale. Pale, palo, tree, trunks spiked on top. And you say of somebody who isn't really at all nice that he's beyond the pale. You see, so we settled that way. And then what we did was we divided the functions of labor into the four quarters encircled by the city. And we made four castes. The first was priests, lords spiritual. The second was officials, soldiers and rulers, lords temporal. The third was merchants, and or the commoners. So the House of Commons in England is really a merchants' debating society. And finally, were the lesser of the quarters, the laborers, the workers. These are the four castes of Hinduism: the priests, Brahmana; the officials, Kshatriya; the merchants, Vaishya; and the laborers, Shudra. And so the holy man of an enclosed society of this kind is a priest, and he gets his authority not from going off by himself, but from a hierarchy. Now then, that's the game that we're still playing. Only we've modified it enormously. We're not living any longer in walled cities, but we have different kinds of walls. We have the dew line, the radar belts, and all that kind of thing. It's still essentially the same game, but it's been spread out in the most extraordinary way. And we have become so absorbed in this game that we don't have quite the same sense that our primitive ancestors had of there being an outside to the game. Because you see, there are two kinds of people beyond the pale. There are the people we throw out, and there are the people who go out. The outlaw who's a criminal is fighting one sort of game. The outlaw who is a saint is beyond the pale in the sense that people can't understand him. His experience is ineffable. That means what can't be effed or spoken. From the Greek pheme. So notice then this curious companionship between the saint and the no good. They've always been associated. And it's a very odd thing. Jesus, as we know, sought out as his friends the disreputable people in the community. The whores and people who are now called notorious evil livers. I say not now, but they were. In the prayer book of the Episcopal Church, there's a passage about notorious evil livers who should not be admitted to communion. But you see, the funny, odd, queer thing is that it is precisely the notorious evil livers that people like Jesus cultivated. Because they were interesting. Because there is something in people like that that is manurish, feisty, that somehow cultivates a new thing. As the book of the Revelation says, because thou art neither hot nor cold, but lukewarm, I will spew thee out of my mouth. You cannot pretend that you don't have the dark side in you. Everybody has a shadow. And if you won't acknowledge your shadow, you'll push it onto someone else. For example, often we find that people who are sexually repressed, and as I say, sex being the taboo in our culture is the problem thing, are very cruel. But here is the game involved, but it's an unconscious game. If you make sex the chief taboo of the culture, you make it terribly important. I've said that Christianity is the religion about sex. I mean, we think there are sexual religions like Priapism, which is phallic worship, or Tantric Yoga, which uses sexual intercourse as a form of meditation. But compared with Christianity, these are things only mildly interested in sex. The Christians are utterly obsessed with sex. And today, the function of the churches is primarily to be family and sexual regulation organizations. That's about the only thing they do. Serious.
Hi, I'm Mr. Pizza. You're listening to Alan Watts' Philosophy.
I was literally almost half asleep when I left the room running in the background, and when it came to that point about talking who owns money to who and how is this possible, it was like I had to come off mic and get up and connect my headset and come and talk about this for a second. The people that we all are in debt to, all of us, not only Australians, Americans, Africans, European, are the sinister people up the top that they manage to, like exactly like you said, switcheroo things around to make it sound like America owes money to China, China owes money to Japan, Japan owes money to Canada, Canada, you know what I mean? Shift it around, but in the real sense, it's all the reserve banks of the world that are all, no exception, all of them with no exception, are private entities, and they are all owned by the same people, and they all print the money that the government of that country.
Okay, this is JDF. What up, Ewan? This room is called JDS. I would love it if you and your wife could moderate it with me. Because JDS is technically a word virus, meaning that people who go on and on about the Jews running the banks and society and genocide, etc., they are opportunity costing their own salvation and personal, um, wellness. So that's my main complaint against JDS people, that they're sacrificing themselves for their ridiculous psychological dilemma, aka conspiracy theory, and projection. Because what they're doing when they think about JDS or what they spew as propaganda is their mind reaching into a bucket of shit in the sky, and then they draw down their bullshit and spray their feces all over your face, your ears, and your brain when you listen to their stupidity. So this is JDS, and this is your friend, Adrian Dittman, wishing you a Shavua Tov, a blessed Sunday. God bless. Health, wealth, love. Neurolinguistic programming.
That was amazing. No, Sarah can't come into the room and moderate because she is dealing with a newborn baby. But in the future, I'm sure she'd be down.
Oh, Mazel Tov. Congratulations. When's the moil coming?
Not for a while. Just dealing with the newborn.
So, I failed in my first marriage. I failed in my second marriage. I failed in my third marriage. I failed in my fourth marriage. I failed in my fifth marriage. I failed in my sixth marriage. I failed in my seventh marriage. I failed in my eighth marriage. I failed in my ninth marriage. I failed in my 10th marriage. And then I met the rabbi, and the rabbi told me that Shalom Bais can only be obtained by tshuva. And through tshuva and Breslev, you can make a donation that will tzedakah your marriage and Shalom Bais your relationship and grow your love and prosperity and health and courage through the prayers of Rebbe Nachman. Nachman!
Sorry, man. I don't have Venmo. We don't have Venmo in the UK.
It's a joke, my friend. It's a joke. Do you know who?
Oh, no, I make it a joke as well.
Oh, good. Do you know? Do you know Reb Nachman?
No, man. So this is the thing, is that I'm like technically Jewish, but I'm not raised Jewish at all.
Well, I wasn't raised Jewish either, but I met a rabbi in Beverly Hills who says that anger is the greatest sin in Torah. So, your marriage still revolves around a spike known as anger. And so this is about personality refinement or turning your personality into gold and silver. So anger management, in my opinion, is the sum all be all ending output of all high value information. And my psychiatrist is here. Doctor, welcome to the room. We're discussing Jewish derangement syndrome. Welcome, Ishmael. We're discussing Jewish derangement syndrome. Thank you for coming. This is your friend, Adrian Dittman, and God bless you all. Shavua Tov, and may you have a blessed Sunday. Health, wealth, love, peace of mind, and happiness and strength. I got boosted, and I unfortunately I have a faith paralysis problem now, and I'm permanently lisping. Oh, Thorin! Oh, if I create a room called JDS, look who comes. Oh, we gotta get Soren's hot take. Please come up, Soren. It would be a great pleasure to speak to you in this room. You are exactly the speaker we're looking for. You're the peak pike. You're the far end of the spectrum. Ishmael, I don't know. Do you want to?
Of Jewish masculinity.
Ishmael, are you available to speak? I'd love to say hello to you. I was going to tell Ishmael that, your business, you have the opportunity to become a very successful businessman. And,
Again?
My father had this briefcase in our basement once, and it was called the Joseph E. Kosman How to Sell Anything course. It was an attaché case with like 20 cassette tapes and all these manuals on how to start a business. It's honestly probably I should go on eBay and try to buy one of those because it is so base about how marketing and advertising and publicity and commercialization or product development works. It is the most base business course anyone could take. It's like a master's degree. If you could present the Joseph E. Kosman, it's probably on YouTube. I gotta look this up. All right, gentlemen, welcome.
I went to the Dale Carnegie course, and I remember how to make friends, but not much else.
So the point about this room is, content really, in my opinion, is the new product. So JDS, or Jewish derangement syndrome, or psychological reconditioning to help people get happy again, and live in the now and have joy and stop with their dialectic, because it must be exhausting to have JDS. I mean, Soren is the perfect example of someone who, if we were to look at his transcripts and his word counts and even his heat map on which words he says the most, Soren is either professionally employed or he has what we call JDS. If you haven't monetized your JDS, Soren, and you are not an IRGC shill and you're actually not getting some kind of compensation, let me tell you, Soren, you have a psychological problem. And we're here as your advisors to help cure once and for all your JDS. I present to you Dr. and Ishmael. Ishmael, welcome to the room. Shavua Tov. How is your Sunday? This is the other thing. There's only 3 things I want everyone to remember in this room, and repeat after me. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. BLD. BLD. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Okay, everybody repeat after me. Breakfast. Lunch. Dinner.
Beer.
So BLD is the new password, okay? If you want to go to the inner sanctuary you have to say the three magic words: BLD, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And this is what that means: is when you're having breakfast, does lunch or dinner exist? And when you're having lunch, does breakfast or dinner exist? And then when you have dinner, does breakfast and lunch exist? Meaning,
No, the question is, when you drink 30 beers a day like I do, what is breakfast, lunch, and dinner? If you're drinking, 30...
well, that's what we call,
bread that are it's liquid bread.
that's the Miller High Life. Oh, JDS, my JDS patients are coming in for the day. Welcome, everyone. Soren and Rabbi, please come up. I mean, I consider my psychological consulting services to be invaluable to JDS patients. Oh, you don't want to come up? Okay. Anyways, doctor, as you were saying about Miller High Life, I've been putting orange juice in my roofer's here. Yeah, I got my roof being taken care of. All right, so
you need to figure out how to fix your bottom.
oh, you're saying I'm a top?
No, it sounds like you're, indiscriminately between.
No, that's called thought projection. Ishmael, do you think you suffer from JDS? Because yesterday you said you wanted to be a Christian yesterday, and I was kind of shocked when I heard that. I almost felt as if you were baiting me to say congratulations, because I wouldn't congratulate you for being anything other than your authentic self, which is Jewish.
I didn't say I want to be Christian. I said Christianity makes sense.
Oh, I see.
Like, the thing for me, like, I grew up a Christian, but I went to a Bible service one time, and there was this group of people, they called themselves the Jews for Jesus, and they had this whole, hour and a half long little, thing that they had put together, and they were talking about, I don't know what, ceremony it is. I think it's Easter or Christmas. I think it's Easter. But they, the kids, the parents will take an unleavened piece of bread, which is like a cracker, and they'll break it in a cloth and they'll hide it throughout the house. And then the kids go and find it and they bring it back and they get rewards.
What is
that?
Yeah, what's the sacred matzah called? The hamet, what's it called? The hafikomen, hamikomen, what is it? Afikomen. I can't remember. Anyways, yeah, it's basically, it's like catching fish, Have you ever put saltine crackers in a pond?
But the thing is when you go and get communion and they take this cracker and they break it, they say, this is my bone. You take wine and this is my blood. That whole Christianity part of it, that the Jews for Jesus would talk about how they would take this cracker and it was pierced, Jesus was crucified, and his body was crucified with holes, and then they would break his body, and then they would hide the house in silk cloth, his burial shroud, but then they bring it back and then he is found, and they correlated it somewhere into that realm.
Okay, so gentlemen, welcome to Jewish Derangement Syndrome. Now, the first part of the syndrome is recognizing that you talk about Jews all the time. If you talk about Jews all the time and you think they're lower than a bucket of shit, that means you're a shit slinger and you're a shit human being with feces on your hands, on your face, on your shoes, on your floor. You're a shit slinger. And that's okay. There's job opportunities.
Where I'm from, we call them shit heels, but okay.
Shit heels. So what I'm trying to say is, Delam Barat, Cheliten Shadeh.
Hey, what's up, man? Hey, you gonna give me the yard cut today? You gonna bring those tires over so we can get this truck running and go get it on the road? What's up?
I'm definitely do tires and shit today.
Yeah, man.
And you said you needed a little bit.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Jewish Derangement Syndrome. Doctor has a call with one of his patients. I want to talk to Ishmael and say Shavua Tov Rabbeinu Shalom. Let's take the deepest breath of the day. Let's say JDS, go away. We're sick of talking to people with JDS. It's actually on the reverse end of the people that talk with all these people. They're almost as neurotic, in my opinion. Slightly less neurotic because I agree with them politically, but nonetheless, the fact that they can go on for months and years talking to the same people, saying the same shit, reviewing the same recurring news events, and they're not progressing financially, physically, psychologically, intellectually, academically. So my main complaint is that people refuse success. They refuse change. They're not evolutionists in the sense that change or die. They don't move quick or fast enough. I think they're all neurotic. That's just my analysis from someone who's generally considered by people to be crazy, insane, or neurotic, which I find ironic that they project and cast onto me their own neuroticism and complain about me when all I'm really trying to do is troll them into enlightenment. Welcome back to JDS. It's September 1st, 2024, 9:12 p.m. CST with Adrian Dittman and Ishmael the Gorilla. Ishmael, what's your hot take?
I am breakfast.
Well, this is the thing about breakfast, lunch, and dinner, is that breakfast implies there is no lunch or dinner, that they don't exist. And that's what Zen philosophy is all about, is to be here now, because that's all that's really real. All the thought projection about the future and the past is essentially tentative, it's speculative, it's tentatively speculative. And it weighs less than nothing because it doesn't exist. And that's what Zen awakening is all about. That's what the Bodhisattva does for his friends. And in JDS, we are here to liberate you from yourself. JDS is a subdivision of God Hypnosis, which is a subdivision of Anyways, I won't go through all my domain names. So, welcome back to JDS. We've been listening to Alan Watts this morning talk about Jesus Christ and how Mexicans really ham it up and how they really glorify it. Not just glorify it, but glorify it. Because he believes that unless your ass is on a spike, some people don't feel alive. And they're a little bit depressed. So they take it to the far end, the extreme spectrum of gore, and make Jesus Christ in Gethsemane, on the cross, at Golgotha, in a horrific, terrible pit of pain, full of blood. And I knew you were going to come. So thanks for coming. I really encourage you to get that YouTube channel going, Ishmael, and to start creating clips under a nom de plume. If you want a burner phone, the C.G. Young Institute of Chicago will gladly send you one for research purposes. Oh, my doctor's back. Welcome back, doctor.
Got the whole way up, though. No, my boy, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk about the tires and all that shit, but I got my boy's truck on my lift, and we've been doing like brakes and tires and getting it running for him so he can do his lawn business with it.
That's what's up.
Yeah. And he's pretty cool with, like, you know, smoking the Joker and shit.
Well, don't suck a cock. So welcome back to Jewish Derangements.
Well, I mean, you could change one tire, you're not a mechanic. If you suck one cock, you're a faggot for life.
Welcome back to Jewish Derangement Syndrome. I want to encourage all speakers on stage, regardless of your veteran status, please, for the sake of the new algorithms at Facebook, Google, please refrain from using any and all profanity for the rest of the JDS room. We will create a separate room which is not under the strict censorship laws of Google Facebook. Please, no N word, no B word, no A word or C words, okay? We can't risk losing this incredible recording. Don't do it. No, I didn't hear anything. We heard nothing. I'll just turn the volume down so the speakers can't hear what you're saying. Please, doctor, refrain from all profanity. Don't ruin my recordings. Thank you very little. We'll call you. Don't call us. Welcome back to JDS. Welcome back to Jewish. I'd just like to encourage all the speakers to invite people to the room. Hit that little plus button. Let's take the deepest breath of the JDS day. Hold it for 10 seconds. Let it go and say no profanity today. That's right. JDS can't withstand another content guideline community strike. We'll lose years of recordings because Doctor prefers to use the A word, B word, C word, D word. Can't risk that again. Here we go. This is the C.G. Jung, Alan Watts, Ramdas, Terence McKenna, microdosing, psychotherapeutic hypnosis for self-actualization. Oh yeah, it's called therapy psychologist or therapy psyche or psyche therapy. I can't remember what I called it on Instagram. Okay, that's uploading to YouTube. Welcome back to JDS. Are you suffering from JDS? Is tomorrow available to speak? Oh, great. Doctor ruined one of my recordings already with his presupposition on the N-word. See, we removed your content. Thank you very little, Doctor. Everything was going swimming. Swimming. This restriction is too harsh. You misunderstood this content. This content doesn't break the rules. Contents like mine should be allowed, or something else. And then I usually choose, it was to raise awareness. Then the other option is, it's about an important issue. The other option is, it's not offensive in my region. And then the other response is, I was responding to someone else, or it was a joke. So I say everything's to raise awareness. And you know, it was for hate speech. I mean, I'm not a hateful person. I don't practice hate speech, but some people use profanity. I believe it's basically based on culture and geographic proximity. And we can't be held liable for what other people say on platforms that we don't own, or that we cross-stream, or record without permission on. It's not our problem. So welcome back to JDS. We're here with Ishmael and my psychiatrist, Dr. Brian Sellers, a veteran of Iraq, a Purple Heart recipient, an overall genius, and a heck of a guy, and I'm proud to call him my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Brian Sellers.
Hey! What's up with the what up? Niggers.
Interesting, when you say it with one G, I wonder if it's technically the real deal. So welcome back to the Jewish Derangement Syndrome Psychology Psychiatrist Psychotherapeutic Talk Therapy Podcast of Uranus. We're inside Uranus. We're tickling your tuchus with a feather from heaven, and I'm so glad you came, and I hope you come again. Unfortunately, Doctor is intentionally destroying a lot of work by using profanity, and we cannot allow it, but I won't kick him because he's a psychotic, and I don't want to have any problems with a psychotic. Oh, my father says that the book of Revelation is not referring to Kamala Harris when it talks about the purple-suited woman in her pearls drinking the flames of Babylon down her tuchus. I guess my dad's not that bad of a guy. I had this thought today that, like, if I died in Afghanistan, my dad would, like, have a frame of me with, like, my uniform up on the wall, and he'd be like, you know, he'd be so proud of my frame on the wall with my dead corpse in Arlington or something, like, oh, you know, so patriotic. And then I'm like in heaven being like, Dad, I'd rather be alive than on your wall. And you know, so just FYI, everything I did was for me to stay alive. You can't win wars by dying. You win wars by watching the enemy die. Welcome, your love. Welcome tomorrow. You're a star. I don't know if you want to come up and say anything. So welcome back to Jewish Derangement Syndrome, the #1 clown house, anti-toxic, healthy debates room where we talk about people's psychological problems and not politics or religion or what you're having for breakfast. Because, you know, it's 9:23, and if you don't have breakfast by 10 a.m., it's over. Does breakfast technically end at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m.? Or does it end when McDonald's says it ends? I think that's probably the real definition. I don't know. That's just me. So welcome back to JDS, where we are conditioning you like Pavlovian dogs. And every time we say breakfast, lunch, dinner, you respond like a dog. Isn't that right? Let's hear you bark. I hope you're getting a kick out of this. Because I sure am. Okay, everyone, I'm going to go refresh my cocktail in the kitchen, get another Miller High Life with some orange juice. But I've got some bad news. Unfortunately, I'm out of cannabis. And when I don't have cannabis, oy vey, I'll have to start smoking my ashes. Sift through the ashes and find a little bit of bud. Oh, I can do it. Somehow, there's always more cannabis. Somehow I'll find a way. Or I just won't smoke, which is, you know, okay too. And that's what every alcoholic and cannabis user and cigarette smoker doesn't realize, is that when you breathe the air and you just pretend you're smoking a cigarette, it's like smoking a cigarette, because what you're really doing is breathing. Isn't it amazing that you have to breathe to stay alive? Also, don't forget that you can drink water on the rocks. That is actually a cocktail, because when you drink water, you're just drinking. But when you drink it on the rocks, you can pretend it's a cocktail. It's not vodka, it's water. Have you heard of it? The planet's full of this stuff, and you can drink it for free. Anyways, welcome back to JDS. This is your host, Adrian Dittman. It's September 1st, 2024, 9:25 p.m. CST. And I just want to ask you to explore yourself. Go within. It's okay. Some people say going within is selfishness, narcissism. I say it's self-preservation. And, you know, the biggest room on this stupid app is called Preservation of the Human Race, which I have been trolling for quite a long time. But the point about the preservation of the human race, it starts with yourself. If you can't preserve yourself, you can't preserve the human race. So be that magic Michael Jackson in the mirror and wipe away your JDS tears. Welcome back to JDS. Ishmael, Doctor, take it away. I just want to interrupt and say, take the Divas breath of the day. Let me hear you bark like a dog. I'll take the second Divas breath of the day. And let me hear you say, meow. Welcome back to JDS. This is Adrian Dittman. It's now 9:26 p.m. Oh, I'm sorry, a.m. CST, broadcasting live out of the JDS centers in Chicago, Illinois, where we hope to fully eliminate your JDS toxicity. Some of you on this stage may or may not have JDS. I don't know. I'm thoroughly trying to evaporate my personal JDS, or at least my proximity to JDS, because let's be honest, you are your environment. And if all you do is listen to JDS all day long, well, you know what? You think you can invert it out, but you can't. Last night, I had a conversation with a couple of National Socialists on this app that were desecrating the memories of Treblinka, of Auschwitz. And they were talking about Howard Irving, a white supremacist neo-Nazi who lived most of his life in Germany as a British man and researched Adolf Hitler. And I just got to say that, these people have very toxic JDS. But they even have TDS. They've got all kinds of S's. Anyways, the big thing is that they're complainers. And complainers don't get laid. Complainers don't win softball games. Oh, hi, I'm Kapara. Welcome to the room. This is Jewish Derangement Syndrome. So if you'd like to come up on stage, Miss Kapara. Hi, good morning. Welcome. It's 9:28 a.m. CST. You're in the JDS room where we hope to psychologically help cure people of their JDS. If you have a pink ticket, please cash in your pink ticket. Follow the Adrian Dittman house, and God bless. Welcome and happy Sunday, everyone. Shavua Tov. Excuse me, I hate to interrupt. Ishmael, can you back channel me? 312-498-0517, if you could send me a quick text. Thanks, Ishmael. Okay, everyone, we're going to go to commercial break. Thanks for coming to the JDS room. Don't forget to vote Kamala Harris and get your 4th booster this season. This message is sponsored by Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J. Thanks for coming. We knew you were going to come, and we hope you come again.
Oh, dear Lord. You made many, many poor people. I realize, of course, it's no shame to be poor. But it's no great honor either. what would have been so terrible if I had a small fortune? If I were a rich man, yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum. All day long I biddy-biddy-bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. Yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum. If I were a bitty rich, idle man, I'd build a big tall house with rooms by the dozen, right in the middle of the town. A fine tin roof with the real wooden floors below. There would be one long staircase just going up, and one even longer coming down, and one more leading nowhere just for show. I'd fill my yard with chicks and turkeys and geese and ducks for the town to see and hear, squawking just as noisily as they can. And each lovely will land like a trumpet on the ear, as if to say, here lives a wealthy man. If I were a rich man, yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum. All day long, biddy-biddy-bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. Yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum. If I were a bitty rich, idle man, I see my wife, my golden, looking like a rich man's wife with a proper double chin, supervising meals to her heart's delight. I see her putting on airs and strutting like a peacock. Oh, what a happy mood she's in. Screaming at the servants day and night. And most important, when in town will come to fawn on me, they will ask me to advise them, like a Solomon the wise. If you please, Rebetavia, pardon me, Rebetavia.